In an interview with JMG, Alan Powell talks about his role in the movie Shooting Heroin. Alan plays Adam, a military vet who tries to save his hometown from a heroin epidemic. All right, so Shooting Heroin, how did you prepare for this role?
It's always funny because if you don't know that it's a movie and you think about the sentence you just said, shooting heroin, how did you prepare to do that? It's just a weird, interesting title that Spencer went with because it does exactly that. It kind of makes you raise your eyebrow. How did I prepare for this role? I connected with the story. It's the obvious things. You read the script a lot. You make sure that you understand and memorize your dialogue and understand your character. And then there are the other things, like which parts of myself do I feel like immediately connect with Adam, and which parts of myself. So to that, and which parts of myself do I need to turn up and amplify and allow to be more prevalent in the scenes and in the story, and which parts of myself feel less prevalent than they are in Adam, so I need to dig into those sides and either create or find my honest way into allowing those aspects of myself to be more bubbling on the surface while I'm playing this character. So I connected a lot. He's a father and I'm a father. Mm-hmm. There's nothing I wouldn't do for my kids, and I felt that way about Adam, although in the beginning of the movie I feel like his perspective was off with regard to what that is and what he should do and what's best for his kid. I get that. I do that all the time as a father, truthfully. Yeah. So that wasn't necessarily far from something that I can't experience. But ultimately, I think it's his desire to do something good to make up for the things that he's done bad. And I think all of us, maybe not. I can only see the world through my own eyes, but I certainly know what that feels like. And that, to me, kind of moves him through every scene. And quite honestly, that's an emotion, like a deep emotion or feeling, motivation that I can connect with. So that was the thing that was moving me through the entire film. And then I would just kind of figure out and pay attention to the script analysis and what's actually moving him through this scene to serve that overall objective. And it was really fun. I don't know if fun is the right word, although I do enjoy making movies and acting, so ultimately it is fun. But some days on set, depending on the scene that we were playing and the emotion that I was asking myself to feel and portray, I don't know if fun would be the word to describe it, but certainly interesting and a challenge that I very much enjoyed to bring those things to life in an honest way. It's always the goal and the hope to do it in a way that serves the story and at the very least doesn't get in the way of the story. And that's always the goal. And that was a fun challenge on this one.
Okay. And did this film hit home in any way for you? Like, did you know anyone that's been affected by opioids or possibly even died from it? So did it hit home for you in any kind of way as you were preparing, or even, during the acting process, did it hit home for you?
No, fortunately enough for me, not from the get-go, not from the outset. I didn't read this and think of my really good friend that I lost to this epidemic, or certainly a family member, or anything like that, which I feel blessed. There's other things that I have lost, friends and family members too, but not this one. But in the process of obviously preparing for this, you learn how devastating it is and how devastating it's been to so many other people, and then you feel the responsibility to step into the story again in an honest way, be able to serve that story to honor those people that they've lost and the struggle that they've been through. But through the process of making the movie, obviously went to Pennsylvania, where Spencer is from, and that's where we shot the movie, in his hometown. And this is a very real and very relevant and very prevalent, unfortunately, epidemic. Through the course of making the movie, I remember one of the more emotional scenes, if not the most emotional scene that we did in the filming process. Me and Gary, we were doing just one of the scenes, and we had to stop filming because there was a few ambulances that went by, and they were going to the house of someone who had OD'd, and it was half a mile from where we were shooting. And
right.
It just, it hit close to home, and there was a lot of people involved in making the movie who had lost literally daughters and sons, close family members, and so to hear their story and to hear their passion for it, which is the reason they showed up and were supportive of the film, and whether it be we're extras there or we're allowing us to use their restaurant to film a scene in, all those sorts of things, the community coming together to be a part of this process, getting to hear their stories and their heartbreak did make it very real for me in the process. And not that I didn't come into it wanting to do, already knowing that the stakes are really high. And it's always my job to try to be truthful, but in something like this, to really, again, want to honor those people.
Yeah.
Once I got to put a face to those people and meet those people and shake their hands and look in their eyes and hear their heartbreak and see their hopeful smiles, you want to step up even further and be a part of telling the real version of this. So it was an experience for sure.
Definitely. And just to elaborate on that a little bit, were there any challenges that you faced during filming, taking on this role? You just mentioned that, it's some of the emotional scenes or what have you, may have been a little bit challenging, but was there something else that you came across that was just like, oh, this may be too much?
Yeah. Emotionally, no, only because you sign up for it. I read the script and I know what Spencer is asking of this actor, whoever, it's fortunate enough to be, and I got the opportunity to step into it, and I don't take that for granted ever. So you sign up for the torture, I guess. It's always harder than you think it's going to be, but you do it because it's never going to be harder than what you're willing to do, I guess. So I was ready for that challenge, but it certainly was, that aspect of it was really difficult. But on a more practical level, for what it's worth, independent filmmaking, which is why I'm so grateful for people such as yourself, independent filmmaking is really hard. It's really hard to do. It's really hard to execute. It's certainly very difficult to release and get enough people to watch it so that you can hopefully pay your investors back, get to make another one, get to tell another important story like this. So again, I want to thank you for being willing to support and get the word out. And but independent filmmaking is always hard. So we always have practical and production challenges. Forgive me. And then the correspondence between that and the emotional side of it. Trying to make sure you get this shot within this window because we're running out of daylight and we can't come back here. We got to go somewhere else tomorrow. We got to get this thing, and there's ambulances going by, and that's always a challenge. A fun one, It's the bottom of the ninth, and it's 3-2, and there's 2 outs, and the guy's on second base, and you're down by 2. Like it feels like you're there every day, in independent filmmaking, which is really fun and part of the reason that I love to do it. So there's that. But again, that takes me back to being appreciative of both the audience and people such as yourself that are willing to help support it and get it where it needs to go so we can keep making these stories.
Exactly, because that's what it's all about. Did you have a favorite scene from the movie?
Favorite scene? There's a number of scenes that stick out. I'll run down the list for you. You can pick whichever one you want. One of my really good friends, actually 2 of my really good friends had the opportunity to be in this film with me. One of them played my sister, played Cheyenne. Her name is Daniela. I knew her in Nashville. We've studied in class together, in acting class for a number of years, and I've seen her do amazing work. Had the opportunity to introduce her to the director, and she ended up crushing the audition and ended up playing my sister in this movie. And we have a really cool scene. It's not a fun scene, but it's a cool scene early in the movie where I confront her about her drug use, and that's a highlight for me because I got to see my friend do really great work, like firsthand.
Right.
My other good friend, a guy named Jordan Fitzsimmons, and forgive the kids in the background, they're fine by the way. A good friend named Jordan Fitzsimmons. Again, we studied together for a while. He crushed the audition, and he ended up playing Kenny in the movie. And not, no spoilers for those who are either watching or listening, but
I haven't seen it.
You haven't seen it?
No,
I saw
it.
I was like, oh, cool. We got a whole other thing going on.
It was good. I saw it.
Thanks, man. We have this cool scene at the end of the movie where he's in this cave, and it's a really cool scene to be able to do with your friend. So that was a highlight for me.
I
as
think
an actor.
that was a highlight for me too,
Of
because
course.
it was like a little twist at the end when he revealed what he revealed about your sister. You know.
Yeah, and that's obviously credit to the writing, credit to Spencer. And one of the reasons that I was excited to be a part of the movie, because again, without giving anything away, that this movie is not about like really clean good versus evil. You know, like Adam's a good guy and the drug dealers are bad, and Adam needs to stop them. And you know, although to some degree that's true, there was something really interesting about like nothing is ever as black and white as you think it is. There's always another side of the story, and don't judge because you never know, all that kind of stuff. It's really interesting to me, and certainly the way that I attempted to live my life in general, and that was really appealing to me. And I can credit where credit is due to Spencer for being mindful of that and being honest about that. And again, I do think it adds a level of certainly intrigue and to the film, but reality as well, and something that I think is important to look at. And any scene I did with Cathy Moriarty, I'm a big fan of hers. I've been a fan of hers for a long time. Most people are fans because of Raging Bull, which is great. But I actually grew up on Casper, where she played the villain, like wore that VHS out. So
Yeah.
to be able to do scenes with her and call her mom in the movie and learn from her was a real highlight, you know, for me. So, but everybody was great. Everybody was really great in the movie, and I appreciate everybody's work.
Yeah. So the movie is out now on video on demand. What do you hope people take away from watching the film?
You know, I never know what to do with that question, to be honest with you. Because what I hope they take away is the thing that's going to be most meaningful to them, and is going to help them. Is the thing that's most positive for them to take away from the movie. Like I said, when I read the script, the thing that was most positive for me was things are never black and white. Like you never know. There's always another side to the story. Don't judge a book by its cover. It could be you. It could happen to you. It could be your sister. Like, there's no bad people and good people. There's people, most likely, and maybe there are exceptions, but seemingly to me, there are people who in really, really tough situations and their backs are against the wall. And there's people who aren't, maybe, you know, and what would I do in those situations? What would I do if my back was in the place that Kenny's was, or what would I do in Cheyenne's situation? What would I don't know that I would do any different and or better. It doesn't mean like we just throw up our hands and go, oh well, there's nothing to strive for. You know, there's no good. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying being empathetic and attempting to see it from somebody else's point of view. I think is imperative to exist in this world in a way that's positive. So that's what I took away from it. And I hope that people are able to take away whatever moves them and impacts them in the most positive way. We just told a story that felt true, and you put that in the universe and you hope that it has some sort of impact. Sometimes it's just entertainment value, and every once in a while, like this movie, you try to do something a little more than just entertainment. I think this tries to do a little bit more, which I love.
Definitely. And, you know, the film was supposed to premiere at South by Southwest a couple of months ago. How did you feel when you got the phone call and they said, we're not premiering at South by Southwest anymore?
I assumed like everybody else did that had some really exciting things lined up for their films or concerts or jobs or whatever. You know, it's kind of a perspective thing. I mean, obviously I was bummed out. I'm really bummed out for Spencer and the filmmakers, and that it's a much more difficult situation for those guys than it is for us, you know, lowly actors. But I I feel for other people more than I'm feeling for myself in these kinds of circumstances. I feel very fortunate. My family's healthy. My job is not affected. There's too many people going through some tough times to really have any sort of woe is me situation. So I'm proud of Spencer and his team and the work they did on this movie. I'm sad for them or any sort of stall that this environment has created for the project. But I do believe it'll all work out in the end.
Yeah.
So I'm hopeful.
Yeah. And there was a Harvard study that came out last month that said that people who are struggling with opioid addictions are having an even harder time right now due to COVID-19 because they're not able to, get their treatments or get their prescriptions or anything like that. Do you have any advice for people who are struggling with opioids at this moment, how they should get through this time?
I have never personally struggled with it, nor do I have any professional training in this world. So anybody who's listening, please don't grasp on anything I'm going to say is like, well, that's what I need to do. As a 35-year-old man who has lived some life, the advice that I would have is don't deal with this in isolation.
Yeah.
At least metaphorically. Have the courage to reach out to somebody and say, this is because of this. This is something I'm really wrestling with. Your closest friend, your closest family member, the person you trust. There are actual services for this. Reach out to people and talk. I think, again, 2 cents worth. It's about isolation. It's about feeling like you're alone and nobody either cares or nobody's going to know. There's power in sharing. There's power in
Oh,
community.
yeah.
That's the most difficult thing about this right now. I mean, I'm an extrovert, so this is its own situation. But with regard to struggles, there's power in talking about things. And I just hope that people are, although a lot of times isolated right now, that they're reaching out and doing what's best for themselves. And because I know there's people who would listen.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm supposed to speak with Lawrence as well, who played Ed in the movie, hopefully in the next
Yeah.
couple of days. I've been a fan of his for a long time. How was it to work with him? How was he in rehearsal and during the film making process? How was it to work with Lawrence?
He's a pro. He's an old pro. He's not old. It's just that he's been around for a long time. We call those guys old pros. I was a fan. Lawrence played Joe Jackson
Yes,
in The
yes,
American Dream. Is that what I think that was the
yeah,
name of the movie?
yeah.
I always just called it the Jackson movie. Loved that movie as a kid. Watched it who knows how many times. And
I
Michael
know.
Jackson is still my favorite artist of all time. Like, just grew up on it, loved it. He was so good and menacing in that movie. It just is part of my childhood, truthfully. So it was such a pleasure to first of all get to know him, get to meet him personally, and then to do scenes with him. I mean, he's a powerhouse. Like
Oh, yeah.
I enjoyed. I mean, you've seen the movie. So there's a couple of scenes where he and I are going toe to toe, emotionally, looking for that alpha kind of up, and I remember catching myself a couple of times during takes, like, what I'm doing, like me and Joe Jackson are like going at it, like
Mhm.
So it was a pleasure. He's a great guy. He's a very strong actor, and he has a really strong presence that just forces you to meet him there. And with regard to the characters, that I had to meet him there. So it was he had set the bar like so high up there. I had to jump a little higher to try
Right.
to get above him from that standpoint, which is a fun challenge. But he's a great guy.
Yeah, I can imagine. And in the film, you could tell that you work out. So, what is it that you do? Any kind of regimen to keep yourself fit? You can tell in some of the scenes, especially I think the one fight scene, that work out and everything. What do you do to keep yourself in shape?
The boring stuff. I lift weights a lot, and I've done that ever since college. Like I played football in high school for 1 year, my senior year, because I thought it'd be fun. Learned the ins and outs like through that kind of strength training thing, and then honestly, I was a bored kid in college, and me and my roommate were like, "Well, we might as well get huge." So we did some research and figured out the stuff to do in the gym, and then I got really fascinated by this idea that our bodies get stronger we push them just beyond the place they were last week. If you
Hmm.
push them just beyond that, it'll grow to meet that. And the next week you push it just beyond that. And that became this kind of interesting metaphor to me, honestly, about just life and everything. That's always a fast. So I still, about 2 hours ago I was in the gym here at the house, and I still write it down, and I write down this exercise. I'm on a 5-week cycle. So I do
Okay.
a 5-week workout, but every week I have to do either more weight or more reps than I did the week before. So I'm a very competitive person. So I'm beating last week's version Alan.
Okay.
Really fun. You know, I really enjoy that challenge, and
Yeah.
and I try to get as much cardio as I can, although I hate cardio. And,
I love now. See, I love cardio.
oh
I
man,
could
I
get
wish I
on
was.
the treadmill and run all day.
Oof, you're a lucky man.
So with COVID-19, I mean, a lot of people are, experimenting and trying to do different things, to keep themselves, occupied at home and sane, between working out and being safe with the family. What are some other things that you're doing besides working out during this time to keep you and your family safe? Are you guys following the whole mask procedure? Are you washing hands? What
Well,
all are
we
you doing to stay
yeah, we
safe?
live in LA, so some of those things are forced upon us. You know, anytime I go out, one second. Sorry. Okay. Every time I go out, we have to have a mask, and we can't go out unless we have to, which is, you know, I support and I want the greater good and all that. So we're a part of that. So we do that for sure. But we stay here and we try to keep the kids occupied and keep them as happy as we can. And we're just all trying to do our part for this for the long-term recovery of society. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fortunate enough that none of our immediate family, certainly within this house, or even like my parents or siblings or whatnot, have contracted COVID to our knowledge.
Yeah.
But I do know people who have, like I'm sure all of us do at this point, or at least one degree away. And so we're just doing our part, man. It's not ideal. It's not ideal for anybody, I imagine, but we put our head down and we'll get through this together and we'll come out the other side like we do everything else. But it is definitely a unique time that I don't think any of us have ever experienced before. So we're doing what we can, and for guys like us, like yourself, Zoom, and you're a journalist, and we can fill our days with things that are productive and continue to do what we love to do. And I have the opportunity to, you know, I'm a producer now, so develop and write and read and get material ready to go. And so I feel really fortunate. But stay productive. Somebody said to me one time, so I'll never forget, it's only dead time if you kill it. That's one of my favorite quotes. And I think this is a perfect example of that.
Oh yeah, definitely. And do you have any other projects coming up that you're working on? Any other
Always.
films or
So,
anything you can share with us?
yeah, as a producer, I just sold a movie to Netflix, which was really, really cool. It's called A Week Away.
Okay.
That came out in the trades a few days ago. So I'm excited about that. And we're developing, you know, a number of other projects, and we hope to, when we can start rolling cameras again, we hope to hit the ground running on some stuff that we're really excited about.
For subscriptions, advertising, and editorial information, visit jmgmags.com.